ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ 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 ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ
ਸਤਨਾਮ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਜੀਓ। ਫਰੀਦਾ ਕਾਲੇ ਮੈਂਡੇ ਕੱਪੜੇ ਕਾਲਾ ਮੈਂਡਾ ਵੇਸ, ਗੁਨਹੀ ਭਰਿਆ ਮੈਂ ਫਿਰਾਂ ਲੋਕ ਕਹੈਂ ਦਰਵੇਸ। ਤੂੰ ਦਰਿਆਓ ਦਾਨਾ ਬੀਨਾ ਮੈਂ ਮਛਲੀ ਕੈਸੇ ਅੰਤ ਲਹਾਂ। ਜਹ ਜਹ ਦੇਖਾਂ ਤਹ ਤਹ ਤੂੰ ਹੈ, ਤੁਝ ਤੇ ਨਿਕਸੀ ਫੂਟ ਮਰਾਂ। ਹਮਰੀ ਗਣਤ ਨਾ ਗਣੀਆਂ ਕਾਈ ਆਪਣਾ ਬਿਰਦ ਪਛਾਣ। ਹਾਥ ਦੇ ਰਾਖੈ ਕਰ ਆਪਣੇ ਸਦਾ ਸਦਾ ਰੰਗ ਮਾਣ। ਸਾਚਾ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਸਦ ਮਿਹਰਬਾਨ, ਬੰਦ ਪਾਇਆ ਮੇਰੇ ਸਤਿਗੁਰ ਪੂਰੈ। ਹੋਈ ਸਰਬ ਕਲਿਆਣ ਰਹਾਓ। ਜੀਉ ਪਾਏ ਪਿੰਡ ਜਿਨ ਸਾਜਿਆ, ਦਿੱਤਾ ਪਹਿਨਣ ਖਾਣ। ਆਪਣੇ ਦਾਸ ਕੀ ਆਪ ਪੈਜ ਰਾਖੀ, ਨਾਨਕ ਸਦ ਕੁਰਬਾਨ। ਡੰਡੌਤ ਬੰਧਨ ਅਨਕ ਬਾਰ, ਸਰਬ ਕਲਾ ਸਮਰੱਥ। ਡੋਲਨ ਤੇ ਰਾਖੋ ਪ੍ਰਭੂ, ਨਾਨਕ ਦੇ ਕਰ ਹੱਥ। ਰਾਜਾਨ ਰਾਜ ਪਾਨਾਨ ਪਾਨ, ਦੇਵਾਨ ਦੇਵ ਉਪਾ ਮਹਾਨ। ਜਬਰ ਛਤਰ ਤਖਤਾਂ ਦੇ ਮਾਲਕ, ਅਕਾਲ ਪੁਰਖ ਦੇ ਸਰਗਨ ਸਰੂਪ। ਧੰਨ 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 ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਗੁਰੂ ਗ੍ਰੰਥ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਜੀ ਦੀ ਨਿੱਘੀ ਗੋਦ ਵਿੱਚ ਜੁੜ ਬੈਠੀ ਗੁਰੂ ਰੂਪ ਗੁਰੂ ਪਿਆਰੀ ਸਾਧ ਸੰਗਤ ਜੀ। ਆਪ ਜੀ ਵਡਭਾਗੇ ਹੋ। ਪਿਛਲੇ ਦਿਨਾਂ ਤੋਂ ਸਾਹਿਬਜ਼ਾਦਿਆਂ ਦੀ ਯਾਦ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਮਾਗਮਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਆਪ ਜੀ ਜੁੜ ਬੈਠੇ ਹੋ। For the last few days we've all been blessed to be sitting in Tan Tan Shri Guru Granth Sahib Maharaj Ji's Hajuri in the memory of the blessed Sahibzade Tan Tan Baba Ajit Singh Ji, Tan Tan Baba Jujar Singh Ji, Tan Tan Baba Zorowar Singh Ji and Tan Tan Baba Fateh Singh Ji. Continuing on from yesterday, I'll just give a quick small recap just for those that may not have attended yesterday. Yesterday we went and discussed and sat in the memory of Tan Tan Shri Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj, where they had just left Ghani Khan and Nabi Khan, and they had come and they had landed in the area, in the Nagar of Raikot Jagrama. And at that area, the king there came to him. His name was Rai Kalla. And when he came to him and he discussed, O Samay, Rai Kalla took Kalgidhar Pacha to his pind. At that pind, he started discussing different war tactics. In those war tactics, he described a story of where he was about to lose his anger, where he was about to do whatever he could in order to save what he called Dharm. In the name of his Dharm, because he was from the family of Turks, but he had become Hindu. Following the Hindu faith, there was an area which had done lots of paap, in his eyes killing cows. And in the killing cows, he had made an agreement with them. Long story short, when they had kept on committing those paaps, O Samay, Kalgidhar Pacha di yaad vich, he remembered that river that was going beside them named Satluj. At that time, when they had killed a cow after 1 year after making that agreement with them, he sat in Samadhi because he was a dharmic person. He was a dharmi person. He was that person which had lots of love for Kalgidhar Pacha. But at that time when he remembered Kalgidhar Pacha and he remembered that Satluj river doing bhakti, that Satluj river came and destroyed the entire village which those people, those papis were living in. Then he came to Kalgidhar Pacha and said that Kalgidhar Pacha, I've now recognized that the only way to actually live this life is through actually doing true dharmic actions, to live this life in according to dharma, and now I've become your satsangi. In these questions and in these discussions, Kalgidhar Pacha says to send somebody to Sirhind because he's heard that Mata Gujri Ji and Tan Baba Zorowar Singh, Tan Baba Fateh Singh have been taken to Sirhind, but he has not heard. Kalgidhar Pacha says that I've not heard what has happened to them there. O Samay, when Noora Mahi is sent, Noora Mahi, he comes back after 2 days, falls at the feet of Kalgidhar Pacha, is not able to describe within words what he is able to say. And at that time when he says, Ke Kalgidhar Pacha, your Mata and your 2 छोटे Sahibzade, उन्हां नू को के शहीद कीता गया. Kalgidhar Pacha requests him to tell him in detail every single thing that happened along the way. O Samay, while hearing these words, right beside them was standing Bhai Daya Singh Ji and Bhai Man Singh Ji. At that time, Bhai Daya Singh Ji is standing there and his tears are flowing from his eyes when he hears this news about Baba Fateh Singh and Baba Zorowar Singh, because in their laps had Bhai Daya Singh and Baba Fateh Singh and Baba Zorowar Singh had they grown up. In the laps playing with Bhai Man Singh had they grown up, had they eaten, had they learned the little Shastra Vidya that they started at such a young age. With them, Bhai Man Singh falling at the feet of Kalgidhar Pacha. Kalgidhar Pacha utthe vi kehn lage koi nahi, it doesn't matter to me. I have seen 3 nights like this. This is the 3rd one. The first one was when my father, Tan Shri Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj, when he came back from Delhi in just the form of his cease. When he came back at that time, that was one evening for me. The second evening was when I left Chamkaur di Gadi and right in front of me I saw the bodies of Baba Ajit Singh and Baba Jujar Singh lying in front of me. That was an evening as well. Now when I'm getting the news, when I'm getting the khabar of Baba Zorowar Singh and Baba Fateh Singh, that is just another evening for me. And as he's describing, we got to the part where Tan Mata Gujri Ji and Tan Baba Zorowar Singh, Tan Baba Fateh Singh have now been betrayed by Gangu Shah, who used to be a sevadar in the Guru's house and becoming lost in greed. O Samay, he ratted out, if you want to use those words. He went and snitched. He went and called the leader, the Sardar of his village, Kheri, and he went to the Senapatis, whose names were Janni Khan and Mani Khan, and told them to go and arrest Mata Gujri Ji, Baba Zorowar Singh and Baba Fateh Singh. When they are going and getting captured, now they're on the way towards Sirhind. And before discussing this, let's all sit down and put our hands together, to put our man birtiyan together, man birtiyan ekagar karke sare Tan Shri Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj Ji de charna kamala de upar dhyan tar ke gaj vaj ke prem sahat bhavna sahat गज वज के आखो धन धन श्री गुरु गोबिंद सिंह जी महाराज जी दी बख्शी होए फतेह वाहेगुरु जी का खालसा वाहेगुरु जी की फतेह. Before continuing with the Sakhi as well, I just want to add in this one thing, that sometimes we might think that we've heard a Sakhi before, and sometimes we sit there and we think in our minds that I've heard this before, that I don't need to hear this again. But listening to a Sakhi is such a thing that when you are listening to a Sakhi, you are taking your mind into that experience. I also want to add this one thing, that there was a bunch of Singhs sitting outside of a dal at one time in history. They were sitting outside of a dal and they're sitting around a campfire, and they had just listened to some itihas that had been happening in the Guru's darbar. They go outside, and after the darbar, divan has ended, they go outside and they're sitting together. Othe baith ke, they're listening to this Saka. They're listening to the Saka of the Sote Sahibzade, that Baba Zorowar Singh and Baba Fateh Singh have been taken to Sirhind, exactly where we are in the Saka as well right now. And O Samay, they start discussing amongst themselves. One of the Singhs says that who knows what's going to happen in Sirhind. Maybe Wazir Khan will actually go in and maybe he will kill the Chote Sahibzade. Then the other Singh says maybe that they will go and they will actually escape before they even get to Sirhind. Another Singh says that what's Wazir Khan going to do to them? Maybe Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj is going to send Baba Ajit Singh, Baba Jujar Singh, they're going to go and free them. Maybe Guru Gobind Singh Ji himself is going to come there. Maybe something else is going to happen and some Singhs from a different place, they're going to come and they're going to free the Chote Sahibzade. And they're planning this out, what they're going to do, even though every single one of them is listening to the katha, they know that the Chote Sahibzade Niha vich chane jande hai. They know that they become Shaheed. They know the story, how the story ends, yet they're still discussing. They're not thinking that night while they're sitting outside the fire as if that the story of the Chote Sahibzade had happened 100 years ago or 50 years ago. They're sitting there and they're thinking that this night, it's night time when Baba Zorowar Singh and Baba Fateh Singh are being taken to Sirhind. And they're thinking that the day that they're going to go into the court of Wazir Khan and they're going to find out what happens to them is actually tomorrow. Not actually it's happened 50 years ago or 100 years ago. They're living that story as if they're going to actually go through that and they're living that tomorrow. In many times, even I've seen with my own eyes, many Mahapurukhs and great saints, they describe this as well when we're sitting in the darbar. When they were sitting in the darbar and on the stage, there was Surya Prakash Di Katha happening and they describe the Saka of the Chote Sahibzade. At that time, when they describe the Shaheedi of the Sahibzade, one of the Singhs sitting there, he falls, starts rolling around on the ground in the middle of the darbar and starts crying, putting his hands out so kehne lage, Mere Chote Lalla nu eh na karo. Please don't do this to my Chote Sahibzade. Why? Because he can't imagine that happening right in front of his eyes. He doesn't think of it happening 50 years ago or 100 years ago. Oh, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਅੱਖਾਂ ਦੇ ਸਾਹਮਣੇ ਹੋ ਰਿਹਾ. It's happening directly in front of his eyes and he can't bear to see that with his own eyes. So with that same ekagrata, with that same heart and mind, let's focus on Tan Tan Baba Zorowar Singh and Tan Tan Baba Fateh Singh and Tan Tan Mata Gujri Ji. While they're being taken, at this time, they're being taken, they've been captured by Jani Khan and Mani Khan. They are being taken to Sirhind. When they get taken to Sirhind, at that time Wazir Khan had just come back from the battle and he had just been very, very fed up that Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj had just left Chamkaur without even coming into sight. That when they found Sangat Singh, by Sangat Singh, and he was dressed exactly like Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj, they thought that it was Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj. Finding out that it wasn't, he had become fed up. Even though Baba Ajit Singh, Baba Jujar Singh, even though they had taken over Chamkaur di Gadi, but they had still lost that battle. And when he comes fed up and he comes back to Sirhind, when he comes back, he gets the news that Mata Ji, the Mata of Kalgidhar Pacha and the two Chote Sahibzade, they have been captured and they have been brought into Sirhind. When he gets excited with that khushi, that morning, because they left that pind of Gangu Shah at night and they arrived in Sirhind in the morning. When they arrived in the morning, right in the morning, Wazir Khan got dressed, went into the darbar. When he went into the darbar, he called many kings, nawabs and leaders around from different villages, different towns around that time. They all arrived into that same darbar of Wazir Khan. They opened up the gates and they allowed many people to come in. And while they're sitting there, they're discussing that, wow, we've captured them. Let's do this. The first thing that we have to do is we have to call just the Chote Sahibzade. Let's just actually see what they're about. Let's just actually see if these two children are actually the children of Guru Gobind Singh Ji. Maybe somebody is just trying to trick us and give some other children in order to get a reward. So then they send Jani Khan, they send Mani Khan, they send other Sipahi. They said, go to the Thanda Burj, which they've been captured at. At night, when they were brought in the morning, Wazir Khan said, take them to that Thanda Burj, which is very close to the darbar, where we can keep an eye on them. Yet, they feel very tortured because somebody that's middle-aged or somebody that's in their mid-20s, they do not feel the cold or the effects of cold weather as much as somebody that is very young or somebody that is very old. And they said specifically to keep them on that Thanda Burj. And it's not something, the cold weather is not something like how we have here in England or in Canada or in America. Because we go into a house, we turn on the heat right away. We turn on the radiators and we go into our blankets. there in the month of Po, where it's at the thand, where even if you go out, there's just fog, and you can't even bear to touch cold water with your hands. Imagine you going at a very high spot where there's no buildings to protect you from the wind either. At that moment, you are sitting there at an old age, at the age of 82 years old, and cold winds are coming, and the cold wind is going right through your skin, straight to your old bones. Mata Gujri Ji is sitting there while holding Baba Zorowar Singh and Baba Fateh Singh, and both of them, she is holding them, putting their heads onto her laps. And then she is covering their heads with her arms so their faces don't feel the cold, because while they were there that entire night, their faces and their lips had gone blue. Their hands had started shivering, and their feet had started getting pale as well. At this time, when the Sipahi come, the Wazir Khan had given them the hukum to, when you go to them, make sure you speak to them very, very sweetly. Mithe mithe bachana naal ona nu prayer ke ithe leke aao. When the Sipahi go, they say that Wazir Khan wants to do your darshan. Oh, thode darshan dekhna chaਹੁੰਦਾ hai. He wants to see the beautiful children of Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj. And he is calling you into the darbar, just like as if a rishtedar is calling somebody into their house, that we just want to meet you. Thode melanda chaya. We want to see what you're actually like. And now, when Mata Gujri Ji is hearing these words, she's holding the Chote Sahibzada even closer to her, and she's not speaking back. And when the Sipahi hear this, they start saying that even more, that you don't need to worry, because Wazir Khan just wants to see them, and he wants to take care of them. He wants to give further things, and he wants to feed them. He notices that you haven't been eating in a while. He notices that you haven't been resting in a while. So he wants to take you and actually meet you so he can put you through those different accommodations. And Mata Gujri Ji knows that why would they take us and put us in a Thanda Burj if that's how much respect they had for them. And at this time, Baba Zorowar Singh gets up and he turns his head and turns to Mata Gujri Ji. The 9-year-old is looking at the 80-year-old Mata, and he says, Mata Ji, why are you getting so worried? We don't need to get worried, because remember when our father, Tan Shri Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj, our father Kalgitar Pacha, he sent his father Tan Shri Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj with a smiling face. And guess what happened when Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj's cease came back with a smiling face? Baba Zorowar Singh, at the age of 9 years old, he's describing this to their grandmother. Oh Samayo kahan lage, don't you remember that day when Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj's cease was brought back by Pai Jetha Ji? When Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj left, they had a smiling, glowing look on their face. And when their cease was brought back, don't you remember when Kalgitar Pacha was looking at the cease? You were there, and Mata Nanaki was there as well, who was the wife, who was the mother, who was the wife of Guru Hargobind Maharaj and the mother of Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj. You were both there. And don't you remember when you were standing there, what you did? You closed your eyes and you stayed in Chardi Kala, because at that moment, just like we talked about yesterday, you remembered the bachan that your mother gave you when you got married to Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj. They said that when you got married, that they give you 2 bachan. We discussed this yesterday. Unhone kiha si कि when you get married, to see apne pati di inni seva karni, you are going to do such seva of your pati. You are going to think of them as if they are God themselves. Think of them as God, and that's how much sharda, that's how much pavna you should do seva of your husband with. The second thing that they say is that your name is Gujri. Gujri means to spread sukh, to spread peace, to spread love. And you remembered at that time that even at this moment, in these moments, that you should always be spreading sukh and staying in Chardi Kala as well. Baba Zorowar is saying that, look, we are looking at you and I'm smiling at your face. Don't you think that I'm going to come back and I'm going to have a smiling face as well? Just like Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj left and came back with a smiling face as well, even though the rest of their body wasn't there. Guru Baba Zorowar Singh gets up and he says, Mataji Sanu Chaida, we should go and at least meet Wazir Khan. Baba Fateh Singh and Baba Zorowar Singh, they both go with the Sipahi. They both go with the Sipahi and they go into the Wazir Khan, the court of Wazir Khan. Okay, now, when Baba Fateh Singh and Baba Zorowar Singh, before they are about to go in, even though we've all heard these stories before, let's take our minds into those moments. Sometimes we take our surti, and just because somebody says something about us, or some problems happens into our family, or somebody on Instagram, social media, something happens, and somebody talks down upon somebody else. Somebody has an effect and it hits us so deeply in the heart, our mind automatically drops to the ground. Our heart and chardi kala automatically drops to the ground. But at this moment, when they had that plan to make the big door close the big door and make a small door, just enough that the Chote Sahibzade could crawl into. And the way that they were going to do it is when they would go in head first, and they would go out and they would be taught that when you go in, it's going to be a darbar. Just like when you go into your Guru's darbar, you go in, you fold your hands and you agge jaake tusi namaskar karni hai. You're going to go forward and you're going to matha take. And obviously, when the Sipahi in front of them, just like a kid watches another child and moves forward, imitating what the other person is doing. Just like sometimes when we have our children, if we sit in a darbar, our children will sit in a darbar and follow us exactly that same way. If we are sitting at home and we are mixing different sharab diya botla, we are mixing different liquors in a glass bottle or in a glass, our child will come beside us and they will take their bottle of milk, they will mix it and look, Daddy, I'm doing exactly what you're doing, even though it's just a bottle of milk. And even if the mother is sitting there and she's doing sajpat from a poti at home, that child will come home and he will open his coloring book and he will say, Mom, I'm doing exactly what you're doing. And this will affect that child in the future as well. And that same effect, but look, the effect of that sangat, of Tan Shri Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj, the effect of having that Sangat at Anandpur had affected these children so much that they had become the embodiment of what true dharma is. They had become the embodiment of such. They had become the embodiment of what Bani is saying, Satgur ki Bani Sat Swaroop hai, Guru Bani Bani hai. They became that. So now when they're going this, nothing could affect them. Forget society's trends, forget what people are saying to them. They go in and the first thing they're doing, they stick their little tiny leather shoes that they had made for them. They stick them forward, and the first thing that everybody in that darbar saw, instead of the head of Baba Zorowar Singh, they saw the foot coming out. And when he kept that foot out there for a little moment, stepped, and he put his other foot in. And with Chardi Kala, the first thing that Baba Zorowar Singh, when he walked forward with his chest out, Baba Fateh Singh following, they looked upon all of the townspeople that they called into the darbar at that time. They looked at all of the Nawabs and the Wazirs and the leaders and the Sipahis and the generals that were inside of that court at that time. Oh, somebody, they look around, they fold their hands, and as loud as they possibly can, they say that Fateh, they say, Vaheguru Ji ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji ki Fateh. And then at that time, one of the Sipahi, they say that what you're supposed to do now, you're supposed to go and to see Jaake Nawab Wazir Khanu, the Suba of this place, Suba Sirhind, go to him, to see Onu Jaake Namaskar karo, Salam karo. And they turn around, they say, who's that? They turn around and they say, Sannu nahi pata, we have no idea who he is. They had to point out who Wazir Khan is in the court, even though everybody else knew who Wazir Khan was. When they go forward, everybody is shocked. Historians write that when Baba Zorowar Singh and Baba Fateh Singh, they echoed that Fateh of Kalgitar Pacha, the roof shook in such a way that even if you go there today, that place today is known as Fatehgarh Sahib. Even if you go there today, you will still experience that Fateh echoing. If you go there with open hearts. And their historians also write this, because Baba Zorowar Singh and Baba Fateh Singh echoed that Fateh so loud and with such chardi kala, that day, that Fateh was the cause of the death of Wazir Khan. Because the person who came in the future and came and took the body of Wazir Khan and split it in two, that person's name was Bhai Fateh Singh as well, who came with the forge of Baba Banda Singh Bahadur. That Fateh became the cause of that death. That Fateh, even there today, it echoes all the way across that world. And that's the same thing that I said yesterday. That Fateh that Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj gave to the Khalsa in 1699, a few months before that was the birth of Baba Fateh Singh Ji in the year 1699 as well. And now when they go forward, everybody is saying that we will offer you many things. We will offer you many things. And they start talking to them just like they speak to small children. They say, you look very tired. Should we give you something to eat? Should we give you some clothes? Should we give you some toys? Should we give you something nice? Should we go and take you around? Should we put you on a horse? Should we give you some rides? Let's play with you. We'll help you, give you good education. We will make you friends around this area so you can play with all these children. And as they're saying, they go forward and they say, that's fine. That's fine. We are more than welcome to do sangat with everybody here. But at that time they say, the only thing that you have to do is you have to do salam to this Wazir in order to do that. At that time, the Zote Sahibzada, they say that no matter what, that we have been taught that the only person that we do salam to is the Kalgitar Pacha, who is Akal Purkh Sargan Sroop on this world. We only do namaskar to the person who is living in the skies, who is living in the earth, who is living in this dirt, who is living in these palaces, who is living on the earth that we stand on. He is living everywhere, and that's the button that our Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj says, Chakar chin ar baranjat ar baat nehenje, roop rang ar rekh pe kau keh na sakt keh, achal moorat anpao prakash amatoj khej, kot indra indran sahay sahe sahan gnij, tripavan mhib sur nar sur net net bantrin kehat, tva sarvnam katha karm nam barnat sumat. Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj's bhajan, that he is ever pervading, that nobody can actually describe what he's like. We only do that namaskar to that person. And here, hearing these words, everybody is in shock. Everybody is in shock and saying, Baba Zorowar Singh looks to Wazir Khan and said, Tu ki hunna? You are just made of 5 different elements. You were born a few years ago maybe, and maybe in a few days you will go away as well. You are not internal. We only bow down to the internal. And at this time, Wazir Khan, he speaks out and he says, don't worry, Bachio. That the only thing that I'm going to say to you is that you don't have to worry about your father and your brothers and this guru that you speak about anymore, because we just had a battle in Chamkaur a few days ago. A few days ago in this battle of Chamkaur, Wazir Khan says that with my own eyes, I saw your brother Baba Ajit Singh. I saw Ajit Singh being killed. I saw his chest being pierced with arrows. And then I saw his younger brother Jujhar Singh being pierced with arrows and spears as well. And then your father, he was also killed in that battle as well. They say this button, and Baba Zorowar Singh, he speaks out, he said, Tu kaun hunna? Who are you to kill Kalgitar Pacha? You don't realize who Kalgitar Pacha is. Just like somebody can't go into the sky, touch the sky and kill the sky. Just like somebody can keep on fighting the dirt or in the earth, they cannot kill the earth. Just like somebody can go to the ocean, they can pull out their sword and they can keep on slashing the water as much as they want, they cannot kill the ocean. Just like somebody can try to grab the head of the sun, just like nobody can do that. Just like nobody can actually eat and destroy this earth with their own hands, just like that nobody can even lay a hand upon Kalgitar Pacha. Who are you to say that you've killed Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj? Our Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj, with a snap of our fingers, they create this world, and with a snap of our fingers, they destroy this world. You don't know who Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj is. There's absolutely no way Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj could actually die. With these bachan that they're saying, everybody is listening. They see the dhrita, and the people, Kavi Santokh Singh writes, that the people that are listening to this, they start talking amongst themselves. They start saying that these kids, that they are definitely the kids of Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj. Just like the Wazir Khan, even though everybody knew that they had not captured Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj, everybody is discussing that, wow, these kids are definitely, just like Wazir Khan couldn't even lay a hand on Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj, just like that, they cannot even lay a hand on these children as well. These kids definitely are the embodiment of Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj. They say that when we look at the face of Baba Jujar Singh and Baba Zorowar Singh and Baba Fateh Singh, we see that child Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj. And a few of them start discussing, historians write this as well, that when Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj in the roop of Gobind Rai, they actually had met Wazir Khan. They had met Wazir Khan in a very young time, when they were very, very young. And what they had done when they met Wazir Khan, instead of doing namaskar as well, they go forward and unhone dandiyan kaddiyan si in front of Wazir Khan. And just like that, at that same time, Wazir Khan was filled with anger at that time as well. They look at the face of Wazir Khan. Wazir Khan is filled with the same anger, just like he was then as well. And when they see the face of Baba Zorowar Singh and Baba Fateh Singh, they say, we see the face of Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj inside the same bodies as well. And while this discussion is happening, Wazir Khan starts looking around. He starts looking around and he sees the head of every single person that's there, their head is down. He looks to his left and looks to his right, everybody's head is down, and the only heads that are held up high are the heads of Baba Zorowar Singh and Baba Fateh Singh at this time. And then there was this one person, this one Khatri, who was sort of an accompany person who used to help Wazir Khan in his court. His name was Suchanand. You must have heard this name before. Many historians, whenever they write Suchanand, I was reading about this and I found it quite funny that a lot of historians, whenever they wrote the name Suchanand, in brackets they always wrote Chutanand. Whenever they wrote Suchanand, they always wrote Chutanand right beside, because there's absolutely no way that Suchanand had any purity or any Suchamta inside of his life. Because what he did when he got up at that time, he said that, you know that, hey children, these kids, hey Wazir Khan, don't fall into the words of these children, because from the bottom of their toes to the top of their head, they're filled with zahr. They're filled with poison. They're just trying to put you inside of their words. And at that time, he says that when a snake, it goes around and it bites people and it kills people, what people do is they kill the snake. And if it has children, it would be very dumb. It would be very murakhtai. It wouldn't be smart if we killed the mother snake and we just left the kids to grow up and we just left them out, because those snakes, those children will grow up and they will go and they will bite even more people. So these kids are filled with poison from the bottom of their toes to the top of their head, just like their father was a snake. They are snakes as well. What we have to do is let's kill them right away. Then because they could not do anything there, they are sent back. They are sent back to the Burj where Mata Gujri Ji is caid. The first day they go back, and just like a child goes to school, does great in school, when he does great in school, he brings back his report card, he brings back his test that he aced. He goes to his mom and says, "Ma, look what great marks I've gotten." No matter if mom is busy, no matter how tired the child is, no matter how hungry the child is, the child goes and he's happy and he goes and jumps into the lap of his mother. Just like that, Baba Zorowar Singh and Baba Fateh Singh, they jump into the lap of Mata Gujri Ji. By jumping into their lap, they say, "Mom, Mata Ji, Dadi Ma, look at how many great things we've done today. That no matter what, just like Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj didn't let his Sikhi drop, just like they said, Tegh Tilak Janju Rakha Prabhataka, Kino Badora." They say that when Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj sees diya par sina uchri, Tegh Bahadur ke chale to payo jagat ko sok hai sab jag payo jai 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 surlok. Just like that, we went into the darbar and we were in such chardi kala as just like in that same chardi kala as well. And just like that, we also passed the test. Just like that child comes and he gives that test, shows his mom and says, "Look mom, I've done a great job." Mata Ji, with that same chardi kala that she had kept when Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj, his cease came back, she's holding those two children that night when they slept. Also, let's not go into too many details because we're running out of time as well. There was a person named Moti Ram, and obviously we've heard that he used to do the seva. He used to do seva of bringing the milk, even though he used to put his life into risk, and he used to bring the milk, sneak it into the Sote Sahibzada onto the Thanda Burj. And I want you to imagine that time, Tirkir Surti there. And at that time, Principal Salbir Singh and many other Itihaaskar write that Moti Ram Mehra, they would write, he would put his own life in danger. He would put his own wife in danger. He would put his own family, he would put everything he had, his own house, his own daulat, everything in danger, just in order to put that same little milk into the mouth of Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj's children, Baba Zorowar Singh and Baba Fateh Singh. At that time, that night, Bhai Veer Singh describes the state that Mata Gujri Ji was in. At that time, she's sitting there and she's looking while Baba Zorowar Singh and Baba Fateh Singh are sleeping. Baba Zorowar Singh's head is on the left part and Baba Fateh Singh's head is on the right part. And what she is doing, she's giving as much enough warmth as much as possible to those two children. And while she's giving that, she cannot sleep that night. As tears are flowing from her eyes, they're dripping onto the face of Baba Fateh Singh. And she's making sure to wipe them before Baba Fateh Singh wakes up, because she wants to make sure those two grandchildren, they get as much rest as possible. At that time, the next day, they go forward into the darbar. Cutting the long story short because we were running out of time, they go into the darbar as well. At that time, Suchanand and the Qazis and everybody else that was there, they say that we should definitely get rid of these two children by putting them into words. At that time, when that was said, there was a person from the area, Mler Kotla. When he got up, he said he was the only person at that time who said that what this is doing, this is not dharm. I cannot allow this to happen. Because he was the only person, Wazir Khan got very angry at him as well. Long story short, Mler Kotla left at that time. As remember, I want you to keep this in mind. This is the same story that Noora Mahi is describing to Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj when they're sitting at the place in Jagrama, in the city, in the town or the pind of Lamma. At this time, when the fatwa is given by the Qazi that they're going, Baba Zorowar Singh, Baba Fateh Singh, they go back and they describe to Mata Gujri Ji everything that's happening. And that night, in the morning, when they're about to leave, I want you to take your surti into this one beautiful poem that Allah Yar Khan has described this moment in. While he's describing this, and he says, Jane se pehle, when that beautiful face of Baba Zorowar Singh and that beautiful face of Baba Fateh Singh is getting up and they're about to leave, when he's describing that, he starts saying that Mata Gujri Ji is looking at their faces and she's saying that Jane se pehle aao, mere gale se to la laun. At least before you go, let me take you and put you towards my heart. Then they say, keson se kangi karun, zara muh to dula to lun. At least let me do kangi in your hair, and then at least let me wash your face before you go today. And then Samay, Allah Yar Khan Yogi describes that nanne se siron par kalgi to sajata laun. Let me at least tie a beautiful dastar, and once I tie that dastar, let me take out of the sack that I had these few clothes that had been brand new, that had been specially made. She took out these beautifully blue chole that had kadai on them, as if you would wear them to a wedding, as if you would wear them on a special function. And she puts those two beautiful shiny chole with kadai onto the Chote Sahibzade. And she says that nanne se siron par kalgi sajata laun. And when she puts the kalgi on, then she says, mere lal, marne se pehle tumko dulha banata laun. At least before you go and I'm sending you off to this wedding with death, at least before I send you off, even though I'm not going to live, I know I'm not going to see the day when Baba Zorowar Singh and Baba Fateh Singh will grow up and they will be wed. And in that beautiful time, just like a grandmother, the grandparents always wait for that day even more than the mother and father. The grandparents wait for that day for their grandchildren to be wed, for that daughter to be wed, or that the son to be wed off. They're just waiting for that day because they know that once the child has been wed, they know that their life is about to become to an end, because they know once their children are wed, they will have future children, and once the future children start coming in, it's time for them to leave their body. And Mata Gujri Ji, she's thinking of this same moments in her inside of her mind, and this she says, mere lal ji, marne se pehle tumko dulha banata laun. Before I die, let me at least watch this moment, let me at least watch your wedding. So she dresses them in such beautiful clothes, and when she's walking away, and as the Chote Sahibzade are walking away, Chote Sahibzade, they turn around. Baba Zorowar Singh, Baba Fateh Singh, they turn around, and Mata Gujri Ji, she looks, they say, why did you look back? Why are you looking back? And then Baba Zorowar Singh, he calls out, and he describes that same story again. He says, Mataji, I just want to make sure that while we're leaving, I wanted to turn around, not because I'm scared, not because Sannu Darya. I'm turning around just to look at you, just to tell you that look, I'm smiling. Just to tell you that look, I'm smiling, just like when Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj left. And when Mata Nanaki, their mother stroked their face, and she wiped the face of Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj. Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj always used to have a sabah of bairag. Hamesha bairag vich rende hunde sige. And when Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj, sometimes they would sit in samadhi and call out and do kirtan of Akal Purkh, and tears would start flowing from their eyes. They wouldn't wipe their tears. Those tears would get stuck on their face and leave white dry spots on top of their face. And at that time, Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj, before they're about to leave, their mother Mata Nanaki, she's stroking the face of their son Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj, and she's wiping those dry tears off. And she says that I have one beinti, I have one ardas. My one ardas is that as your face is glowing just like this, I want to see your face again come back to me in a glowing face like this. And at that time, Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj looks to one side and he sees Bhai Jetta Ji standing there. He says, Koi nahi Mata, I give this responsibility to Bhai Jetta Ji. With that same glow on his face, Baba Zorowar Singh and Baba Fateh Singh, they look back and they say, Mata Gujri Ji, don't worry. Our faces are glowing just like Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj's face is glowing just like when they're leaving. We're in that same Chardi Kala. And as they go, you don't have time to describe. I'm going to go in a little bit over time. I apologize for that. Because when they go that day, ਜਦੋਂ ਨੀਹਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਚੜ੍ਹਨ ਲੱਗੇ, as the ittan are going up and up and up, I would just want you to take your surti there for that brief moment. They get to the knees, and when they say that the knees are coming in the way, it wasn't that they would move the bricks outside of the way, because the two people, Shashal Beg and Bashal Beg, the two prisoners at that time who were also in the court, because when Wazir Khan called out into the court, who wants to do the sentencing of the Choti Sahibzade, not a single person got up. Not a single person had the heart, had the guts to get up and be able to say that I will sentence and I will brick the Choti Sahibzade alive. Nobody was even able to look into the face of the Choti Sahibzade. At that time, these two prisoners, they said that our court, our case is going on in this court, we'll make you a deal. We'll do this if you let us free. Wazir Khan had no option but to say, yes, you can sentence them and we will get rid of your murder sentences, and we will cancel out your murder cases that you were on. So they are the ones that are bricking them. When they get to the knee, they say that we can't get past the knee because the kneecap is coming in the way. And what they say is that they just chop the kneecap right off instead of going around. So they chopped the kneecap off and they kept going forward instead of making the ittan go around. And as they're going forward, up and up and up, ittan kept falling and they kept going up. And the ittan kept falling. Sometimes they would go up and the ittan would not even, the vibration inside of those bricks would not even allow the bricks to even go up to the faces, the glowing faces of Baba Fateh Singh and Baba Zorowar Singh. Over and over and over again, they had to keep on building the bricks. And while they're putting those bricks up, while they had to take some of the ittan, they had to cut the ittan. They had to break the ittan in order to make them fit on top of that wall. While the Shashal Beg and Bashan Beg, they cut the brick, one of the small pebbles of that brick, actually they bounce off and they go and they hit Baba Fateh Singh right in the eye. When they hit Baba Fateh Singh right in the eye, he could not do anything. Sometimes when something hits us in the eye, or even a mirch or a ganda, or the smell of a ganda hits us in the eye, the first thing that we do, we have tears coming out of our eyes and we start wiping it. Or something hits us in the eyes, the first thing that we do, we stop looking. But at this time, Baba Fateh Singh's hands were tied behind his back. He was not even able to, this 7-year-old child, instead of crying, instead of calling out in pain, he had his hands tied behind his back. And the only thing that he did is he looked to Baba Zorowar Singh and they yelled out another jikara. As the bricks are going up and up and up, they're yelling out jikari. Even while the last brick is being put, they're yelling out that last jikara. There are many people watching this out from the outside. And many people, when there's a crowd of many people, normally there's a lot of noise. But at this time, when those bricks are happening, the only thing that you can hear for many miles is the sound of still the jikari inside of that brick wall. Thousands of people are gathered there, but you couldn't even hear a single sound. And when those bricks are standing there, those bricks are there, those bricks still didn't even allow themselves to contain Baba Zorowar Singh and Baba Fateh Singh. Those bricks fell over. When those bricks fell over, Itihaaskar write this, that when those bricks fell over, the first thing that Wazir Khan did was they told Shashal Beg and Basal Beg, because the Choti Sahibzade had now become behosh. Even though they were coming out of their behoshi, they could have still survived if they kept on getting the breath. If they kept on breathing, if somebody took care of them. But no, they put their knees on the backs of Baba Zorowar Singh and Baba Fateh Singh while they were on the ground. They took their knees, put them on their back, put their knees on their back, pulled their head up. And what they did was, while putting pressure on their chest, they pulled out a shuri. They pulled out a knife. And they slit the throat from the front. Instead of cutting from the back, where they would feel no pain in one blow, they slowly just slit the throat and they let the blood pour out. It wasn't that they cut the entire head off. They just slit the throat. And when this throat was slit, I want you to imagine not Baba Fateh Singh's body that was 300 years ago. I want you to imagine Baba Fateh Singh's body as if that was your body. Baba Fateh Singh's body was there. Blood kept coming out and their foot kept on shaking for 12.5 minutes. As their foot was shaking for 12.5 minutes, the entire place kept quiet. And when Noora Mahi is sitting there in front of Kalgidhar Pacha, he's describing all of this. He said that Kalgidhar Pacha, while I was even traveling from one pend to the next pend, to the next pend, on the way to getting towards Sirhind, I told you that the vibration in the air was as if the earth was in grief. I described to you that wherever I look, mothers, daughters, wives are calling out in pain. The earth, as if the earth was crying out, as if that ਹੁਣ Mughal Raj ਦੀਆਂ ਜੜਾਂ ਪੁੱਟੀਆਂ ਜਾਣਗੀਆਂ. This is the grief that the earth was calling out towards. And then when I got there and I heard this story from eyewitnesses that were there, they described this to me. Those people were not able to put into words. How am I being able to put this into words to you, O Kalgidhar Pacha? When all of this is happening, I'm telling out to you that the only thing that I felt while I was there as well, that the Mughal Raj is now, it has to end now. There's absolutely no way that this paap, this thing, this vibration on the earth could continue. Kalgidhar Pacha asks about, then what happened to the bodies of Mata Gujri Ji and the Chote Sahibzade? They describe, I'm going to describe it in just a few minutes, that Mata Gujri Ji, while they're sitting there, just like I described the story yesterday, when Mata Gujri Ji, when Baba Fateh Singh was at the age of 3 or 4 years old, they described to them that Baba Fateh Singh said that I have a feeling, I have a chaw that I want, मैं भी सचखंड जाना है. And at that time Mata Gujri Ji ने किया कि अच्छा जे तू सचखंड जाना है तो मैं भी ये जिम्मेवारी मेरी चोली विच पावांगी कि जदों तू सचखंड जाऊंगा, when you go to सचखंड, मैं भी तेरे नाल ही सचखंड जाऊंगी. And one thing that I forgot to mention, that Baba Fateh Singh said when they turned around before leaving, Baba Zorowar Singh described Baba Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj. Baba Fateh Singh turned around also and they described and they said कि दादी माँ, we are going now and we are going to wait for you. ਅਸੀਂ ਅੱਗੇ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਇੰਤਜ਼ਾਰ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ. And make sure you don't take too long. ਜਦੋਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਅੱਗੇ ਜਾਵਾਂਗੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਇੰਤਜ਼ਾਰ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ. We're going to go to Sachkhand. ਅਸੀਂ ਹੁਣ ਸੱਚਖੰਡ ਚੱਲੇ ਆ ਤੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਵੀ ਛੇਤੀ ਕਰਕੇ ਆ ਜਾਣਾ. Because ਜਦੋਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਸੱਚਖੰਡ ਜਾਵਾਂਗੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਨਹੀਂ ਪਤਾ, just like a small innocent child, it's as if he's going to a new place. He thinks he's going to another house or another place, like a rishtadar's house. And ਉਹ ਕਹਿਣ ਲੱਗੇ ਬਾਬਾ ਫਤਿਹ ਸਿੰਘ ਦੀ ਦਾਦੀ ਮਾਂ, ਪਤਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਉੱਥੇ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਸਾਡਾ ਜੀ ਲੱਗਣਾ ਕਿ ਨਹੀਂ ਤੇਰੇ ਤੋਂ ਬਿਨਾ. We don't know, without you, are we even going to find peace there or not? Hurry up, we're going to go there, we'll wait there for you, but ਛੇਤੀ ਕਰਕੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਵੀ ਆ ਜਾਓ. So then they turn around, they walk away. Mata Gujri Ji, they're left speechless. At that time, Mata Gujri Ji, many Askars write, ਉੱਥੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਸੁਰਤੀ samadhi ਵਿੱਚ ਲਾ ਕੇ, they themselves ਆਪਣੇ ਪ੍ਰਾਣ ਤਿਆਗ ਕੇ, at that time on the Thanda Burj itself, they left their Sirhind and went to Sachkhand as well. At that moment, there was a time, I want you to take your surti to this one person. There was a person named Todarmal. He had heard that the Chote Sahibzade had been captured in Sirhind. He had not heard about the Shaheedi yet. He is traveling and he was not a regular person. This person, he had many ships that he owned. He had many companies that he owned. He had many businesses and merchants that he owned. And he was very wealthy, sometimes even more wealthy than many leaders or nawabs. He came in and he had an idea that I will sacrifice all of my money. I will sacrifice all of my wealth and my house and everything. I will go to Wazir Khan. I will present him with all my money and I will say that I will buy the Chote Sahibzade off of you. Then make sure you don't say anything to them. I will just do Samapti here in the next 2 minutes. And here, when he's traveling, he has not heard that this has happened. When he goes and when he arrives at the court of Wazir Khan and he asks somebody, what has happened to the Sote Sahibzade? And when he hears about the Shaheedi, कि उन्होंने तो शहीद कर दिता गया, the Mata Gujri Ji has gone, because Wazir Khan, everybody else just left the bodies there to be. What Todarmal did, Hatyaskar, right there, he went, and they did not agree. But what they did agree to was that if you lay out gold coins in all of this land where Mata Gujri Ji and Baba Zorowar Singh and Baba Fateh Singh had left their bodies, if you lay out that gold, then you can buy that area. And what Todarmal did, that's exactly what he did. He gave up all of his house. He gave up all the wealth, majority of it that he had. Then he put Mata Gujri Ji in the middle. Just like Mata Gujri Ji never let go of the Chote Sahibzade as if they were all one. They put Baba Zorowar Singh on one side and Baba Fateh Singh on one side. Fir uthe unhan da ja ke sanskar kita. Kalgidar Pacha is hearing all of this. And oh Samay, while they're hearing this, with one tir, they're playing around with one buta, one plant that's on the ground right beside them. They're playing around with this tir and picking at this buta. And when they finish, Noora Mahi finishes the story. Kalgidar Pacha picks out that plant, pulls it out from the roots with that arrow that they were playing with. That plant goes flying out, and Kalgidar Pacha, at this time, they say that now that the jada, the roots of the Mughal Raj, Turkan da Raj, horn bas pattiya gaya. But before they said that, they also, remember, it wasn't about Mughals or Hindus or anybody, because Suchanand was also a Hindu and Todarmal was also a Hindu. And at this time, if we look at Malikotla, he was also Musliman, and also Wazir Khan was Musliman. And at that time, Kalgidar Pacha, when he asked, was there anybody who went against the fatwa or the sentencing of the Chote Sahibzade? O Samay, Noora Mahi said, yeah, there was just Malikotla, nobody else. And here, Guru Kalgidar Pacha says, all the jada of the Mughal Raj will be thrown out the window, and they will cease to exist except for Malikotlas. And many historians write this today, and if you follow that lineage, that family of Malikotla still is alive today, and they live in America today. Those Bachan of Kalgidar Pacha still exist till today. But leaving the Saka here, Kalgidar Pacha takes this and they start moving more south. Along this way, Gyani Sukhjeevan Singh, or whoever comes and finishes off the Saki in this 14-day Sahibzada Smagam, that you guys have come together in memory of the Chote Sahibzade, they will continue how Kalgidar Pacha, they go forward with, and how they move towards the south. Along the journey they find Baba Banda Singh Bahadur. But in Vichara, in these 2 days, while speaking, I've made many mistakes. Don't think of me as somebody that's knowledgeable or anybody. I'm just a child. Whatever I have learned from my ustads or doing vichara or while reading, I'm here. And we're all sitting in the memory to, in our minds and our hearts, to do the praises. So all vichara karde hain, ek nahi, aneka hi galtiyan bhulna changa ho gayan ne. Aap ji anjaan bacche samajh ke, anjaan bachcha samajh ke, saad sangat ji, mera paryan ਹੱਥ ਇਸ ਬੱਚੇ ਦੇ ਸੀਸ ਉੱਪਰ ਰੱਖਣਾ, ਅਸੀਸ ਬਖਸ਼ਣੀ ਜੀ ਸਾਰੀ ਸੰਗਤ ਗੱਜ ਵੱਜ ਕੇ ਕਲਗੀਧਰ ਪਾਤਸ਼ਾਹ ਜੀ ਦੀ ਬਖਸ਼ੀ ਹੋਏ ਫਤਿਹ ਬੁਲਾਓ ਜੀ। ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ, ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ। If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, share and subscribe. Please donate and help spread Guruji's message. Link is in the description below. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Vaheguru Vaheguru